Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Well, good afternoon. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing your weekly local marketing industry update. Now, this week we got a couple of different things to talk about that happened. We had a great week of Easter that went by, and Google, in their traditional fashion, definitely got involved with the holiday. And Matt Cutts came around in the SEO world and launched a hashtag that I want to tell you about, and you will have a chance to find and read some interesting stories in regards to that. We're going to talk about several different reasons why paid search is now, and I got to be careful when I say it this way because I want you to hear everything that I have to say, but paid search is second behind display search and what that means for search engine marketing. Okay, and I want to talk a little bit about more segmenting, a little bit more of a direct approach for agencies that are using targeted segmentation to approach leads and creating your direct mailing list. So these are certain things that we've been in discussion in our premium group over the last couple of weeks, and trying to get those lists together, and some of the reasons why we want to do that as well, and the implications to that, and understanding that a business, our greatest asset is our list. And somebody was asking me, well, what is that? What is our list? And really, we can have multiple lists, and all a list really is, in the marketing books is an audience. And more so, the difference between an audience and a list essentially is that a list, you've got the ability to communicate with them directly. Digitally, of course, we can communicate with our email list, and most systems, it doesn't cost us any more money to have more people on our list or to send communication out with our list. So it's an easy means. We've got social media, but there's implications to that not everybody reads their Twitter feed, that Facebook does not show a page's feed to an entire audience. It's actually lower than 6%. Sometimes it bounces as low as 2%. So there's a variety of different ways that lists can be managed and utilized on the internet. A variety of different social media channels and email lists, and with your email list you can segment it down to a customer list, an active buyer list, a past buyer list, a general list, and then on the offline side, there's who are these businesses that we want to approach. So I want to get into some of that, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about the update. And I'm going to start off with paid search. And before I do that, this is a short one because this is fun for Halloween, and it's a hashtag called SEO Horror Stories. And you can do a search for that within Google or go to Twitter and do a search for it. And it's something that Matt Cutts put out and started. And what's neat is if you got some time, you can read about people's horror stories with SEO, but don't waste a lot of time because, I guess you could get some value learning about the mistakes that people make so you don't make them, which is good. But also focusing on doing what's right is also important. So, but yeah, that's fun. And it was, I spent some time reading some of the stories, and it's no surprise what you read. It's clear black hat, and if people ask me how do you really know what's white hat and what black hat, you just can't define that. There's no clear definition, but almost every strategy that we employ to get a business to the top of a search engine, we can relate to real marketing. That's with communication with real people, and is it truly going to be effective? You know, what you're trying to get across. And what you've got to do is go through the buying process of being a buyer for any type of product or service and get an understanding of what buyers might be looking for. And so, now I really want to talk about that segmentation, but I want to get to this last story out of the way. And most recently, of discussion within our community and the paid search of side. You see, paid search and organic search have changed significantly, both of them in their own worlds over the last. I take any time frame, whether it's last 20 years or 10 years. And well, AdWords is what, 15 years old now. And the big thing that we want to know is how often people click on each of those ads. You're going to get a variety of different reports that are out there on the internet. And the rule always was an 80-20 rule. It still tends to hold true for the most part. Searches are a little bit different, where sometimes you've got 2 or 3 or 1 paid result on the top of a SERP, of a search engine results page. And then the incorporation of local has also significantly changed that, because a lot of times an individual may never go to a website and may never click on a paid ad, but take a call to action and give a business some business because they were found on Google. That number has also changed significantly in the last couple of years, whereas call to actions are significantly being increased without having to navigate. That's almost 50% of local businesses today that get business from Google search. That new individual never went to their website. They're getting the information they need to go through the buying process completely outside of the website. So just understanding what all these third-party sites are delivering is likely a really good indicator of what you should be delivering on your website to give information and improve the conversions and whatnot. Now, getting back to the aspect of search and paid search, just 20, sometimes 30% of traffic goes through the paid channels. And that's what's made Google rich. Everything that goes along with what Google is because of AdWords. That's where the money's come in. And, from there, it's always been predominantly on the search side. And then when they launched their display network, and what the display network is now I could have a website, I could sign up for Google AdSense, and Google will give me ads to display on my website, and if somebody clicks on it, they get paid for it. And now Google is getting more revenue on the display side. And so as these numbers change, both on the traffic that goes just through paid channels and search, and for businesses to get this, where I'm getting with this is opportunities to increase some exposure for local businesses through paid channels. You see, I have some problems with the paid side of things. As number one is organic will always rule. Organic is always ruled. Organic is essentially word of mouth. And any business that has flourished, word of mouth has always been the best form of marketing. So organic is always going to rule. One way or another, it's going to continue to make its way. And it always has proven to rule on the internet. But with the paid side of it, I think of the paid side of it like the Strip in Las Vegas, okay? I don't think it has 9 of the world's 10 now, but a couple of years ago it did. I think right now it's got 7 of the world's 10 largest hotels on one street. And they all have casinos in them. And they're magnificent, beautiful, incredible hotels. And people love to go there, and people spend money. But the fact is that this street became the biggest, to have the biggest hotels and, the flashiest of everything that we have pretty much on our planet. Because they make a lot of money and they take a lot of money, and people are taking their chance, and people are there and going to go gamble and hoping to win with a lot. The masses are going. Well, Google is like that strip. They've become the biggest company because they've created an environment that you can throw some money at, and hopefully you're going to get some money back. And the masses have flocked. And there's only so much real estate on a web page, on an internet, that the masses all can't win. And we know that the number one spot versus the number two spot, the number three spot changes significantly. So there's just a small number of people that ever win with AdWords. It's just like gambling. It's you've really got to know what you're doing in that world to be able to win. You could really, really throw a lot of money away very easily in that world, and a lot of businesses do. But display advertising now has changed, and some of those reasons are, the fact that marketers, for example, have become a little bit better in engagement. All right, we know that, at least with the business idea with the chiropractors, not a lot of people think chiropractors are quacks. A lot of people don't understand what chiropractic care is all about. And so chiropractors traditionally have invited people into their practice and educated them and given them a seminar and do this once a week or once a month. And especially the younger ones have to do more of it. And it's amazing how many don't just pull out a camera and record it and then take that leverage and then boom, turn it around and offer it as an opt-in on their website as a piece of content to get somebody's email address in exchange for that video, and then in turn deliver that education many times over without any additional effort. That one process in itself has the ability to vastly change that engagement. And so with display advertising, rather than a little text ad, is marketers are understanding that display advertising is working by offering a piece of value, a piece of content, rather than saying, come buy this. Why don't you go and get this for free? You might need this if you're looking at that. To be able to offer considerations of when I'm targeting paid advertising for my agency, for example, and we're talking about segmentation. I know my audience, my chiropractic audience. You can do this with dental audiences. You can do this with attorneys. This is accountants. There's a whole variety of different professions that this strategy will work on. And I just identify all the different schools that a chiropractor could graduate from, create a list inside of Facebook based off of the schools that each of these individuals targeted, and create ads specific to that school and say, they taught you this at school, but they didn't teach you this, ... something of that nature. And so when you create a nice little graphical ad for that, you can offer something of value to somebody and then get the click-throughs on it. Another aspect to this is that, at least in the countries that my students operate in, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and North America, search engine query volume has essentially begun to stabilize. And this is an interesting point in time right now, that our adoption rate has come, we've pretty much now, as a mass, is using search to its fullest potential. It's not like we're waiting for grandma to get on it and mom to use it more and to get used to it and whatnot. Those days are far, far behind us. And so search is essentially stabilized. search engine traffic, search engine query volume is stabilized. So now we're able to start, to create an industry framework just around that. That in itself is exciting. So if search volume is stabilizing, well then search ad revenue, that industry of PPC, you've now created your market. It's not, the market is not going to, the amount somebody spends in the market can increase year over year, but the size of the market, the number of ads that are going to be able to be displayed is likely not going to increase. They may try to squeeze more out by using more real estate rather than organic, but I'm convinced wholeheartedly that they will push, and they're going to find where each of these search engines will, ultimately find what they feel is ideal and continue with their testing. But you've got to have organic results above the fold. That can't change. Something about marketing now, small businesses, they're getting smarter about their online marketing budget. They're not just throwing money at a search engine firm and saying, get me results, or throw it at a PPC. It's, they're understanding the different volumes of click-through rates and query rates and call to actions and whatnot, and want to get this information. So they're scrutinizing themselves a little bit further, and that in itself is also lending to the fact that looking more precisely, at that casino, right? That the display network world, and here's something that's interesting, is Google is the only company that has a display network. Wait till Facebook opens theirs up. They've denied that they're going down that path. I don't know how long they've denied it. There's been, to this date, there's no real commitment to it. There's been a little bit of discussion, but the fact is when Facebook opens up that world, that's going to be an incredibly great opportunity for a lot of businesses. It's going to be good for a business like mine, an agency like mine. I am not sure how good that will be for, say, a chiropractor. I don't know. And the last thing, really, that's really interesting that are facts here is that digital marketing budgets are going up. That's inevitable, and that's expected. More businesses are spending more and more money every year on digital marketing. But search engine marketing, PPC marketing, knowing that it's pretty much plateaued in terms of volume, and budgets are going up. So search engine marketing doesn't scale the same way that network or display marketing does. Now, all of these changes for us SEO people, this is not a bad thing. Search engine marketing, it's really helped the digital marketing revolution and vice versa. And it's helped pave the road to the fact that businesses are willing to spend a good amount of money on search engine marketing, whether that be organic or paid channels. And finally, when we look at some other studies that have come out, they were a Bright Local study that I just want to remind you as I close off on this, put my notes together, was that SEO was the very last item on the list that CEOs would cut from their online marketing budget. So we've got the greatest security as well. In other words, the search engine marketing industry has got a lot of growth in it before even we start to see some stabilization, which is awesome because the industry still to date is great and it's growing fashion. Well, that's everything I wanted to talk about. I know I was touching on segmentation, and with our premium group, that's something that we've been focusing in on. And so this is from a perspective of an agency, and we get asked the question, well, why do you want to do that? And really it's just a matter of sharpening your axe and increasing your efforts. And there's certain points that we know that are important, and that we're constrained by. There's only so much time and money that we have to grow our business. It's one or the other. And in most cases, we got to throw a little bit or a lot of one or the other or both at something to gain success. And so when we're trying to get new clients, you see, we just did a survey. 65% of my audience is making between $2,500 a month, between $1,000 and $2,500 a month online. There's I forget the numbers, but there's about 20% that are making between $2,000 and $10,000 a month, and 10% that are making a little bit more than that, whatnot. And these are the people that are making money online. Of course, there's a group of my public audience that is making zero on the internet and definitely want to aspire to do so. And well, we all at one point in time are making zero on the internet. Sometimes it just kind of amazes me. God, just out of nowhere, by hitting a few buttons, if I hit the right sequence of buttons, all of a sudden I can turn the right sequence of buttons into food on my plate and hockey equipment for my son. Oh, funny world. But that is the world, and you've got to get out there and get yourself in front of a particular audience. And whether you take your agency and you go niche based, identifying a target industry and communicating to that industry, or you decide to grow your practice through as a general small business practice, you've got to do the same things. You've got to segment your audience. You've got to create your messaging to that audience, and you got to deliver it. And we could take any industry that has grown and built itself, has followed all of the same rules. So again, just like the chiropractic world, I use this example frequently. There's different types of chiropractors. And whether it be the hamburger world, there's different types of hamburger restaurants. And some of them that are going to charge charge $1 for a hamburger and to $14 a hamburger. These are two restaurants in my own hometown that I could think of that are literally less than a mile apart. So there's quite a difference. And somebody that's buying a $1 hamburger is satisfying a completely different need than the person that's buying the $14 hamburger. Interestingly, the fundamental need is fuel, and ironically, in different situations, it's arguable whether one's fuel or not. But that's not the argument for the marketer. Unless you're the market researcher, I guess, conducting all the research and information that's out there. But the point of this story is to talk about segmenting your audience. And it doesn't matter what type of business you have, is what I'm trying to say, is that you've got to get through that process. And whether it's your online list or your offline list, you've got to have understanding of what market segmentation is about, and getting these segments into different groups. Let me tell you, I'm putting together a launch. You may or may not know that. And it is for our premium group. And it's going to be in the next few weeks. And we put out a survey and got an understanding of our particular audience. And what I do is, when I'm creating material, is I visualize that person in front of me. So I know that a good portion of my audience is making less than $10,000 a month. I know a good portion of my audience is educated, whether it be with some paid education on the internet or post-secondary education that they've achieved. I know where they reside. I know their age groups. Surprisingly, I'm at a 50-50 split for females and males. It used to be predominantly males, but our industry has changed significantly too. So I visualize that person when I'm creating my material. A chiropractor has got to do the same thing. If they're, in the world of sports medicine, they've got to, visualize, a middle-aged type of hockey player or whatnot. And so when you're talking to that hockey player, you're going to, relate stories to them playing in their sport. And so when you're creating a marketing material for a chiropractor, you're going to make references to their local sport that they may be playing. And that's why we do that. And, it may sound like, well, yeah, that's kind of obvious. Well, yeah, it is obvious, but you'd be so amazed how often it isn't. And so, you can take an agency owner that says, all right, I just want to serve everybody. Great. Throw some mud at the wall and see how much is going to stick. It hasn't. When you're trying to send a message that out there, it's just like the general contractors, the guy that is the plumber, that is the electrician, that can do a variety of different tasks around the house versus the plumber, the electrician, and these guys that do the individual tasks. How many general contractor vans do you see out on the roads as opposed to a plumbing and HVAC? Okay, plumbing and HVAC, they tend to work together. But I think that, that goes way back beyond Yellow Page days. That industry just has always worked together. Electricians, you don't see a plumber / electrician company very often. If you do, they're a fairly large company and have both plumbers and electricians on staff. But you catch my drift. You see a lot of these individual vans around, not specific just a general contractor, a white van running around. And so the chiropractic industry works that way, the dental industry, the attorney industry. Look at attorneys when they're creating material that speaks to different types of cases that they're trying to solve and whatnot. They've even labeled themselves to segment themselves, a defense attorney, family, whatnot. Now, for an agency, the question comes down is, all right, well, let's go through the example if we're just trying to cater to the general small business that's out there. All right, and I just said, well, hey, if you're going to throw some mud at the wall, well, no. There's certain elements that you can still segment certain audiences into and service them. For example, whether it's just contractors across the board, that you're doing that, but more so than that, from a geographical sense. So maybe you want to be America's best internet service provider. Maybe you're going to be Chicago's best or Canada's best. In any sense, you're creating some sort of local environment, whether it's your own local community. And if you started to look at, say, my hometown, Sudbury's got 150,000. It can handle 4, 5, 6 general internet marketing agencies, no problem in that town. And then the next step is all right, well, let's start to look at some opportunities that are there. Let's start to look at a list and how we're going to get out to them. And this is where, whether you're working with a niche or working with a local market, the rules pretty much are the same. Is that, all right, you want to get in front of these people. And we know that, creating ourselves as an authoritative figure to speak on the topic, all right, to talk to people. How do we get people to think, to want to talk to us over everybody else that's out there? Anybody with an internet marketing connection and a computer can call themselves an internet marketer. So we've taught our premium students, write a book. Write a book. Holy shit, write a book. It's a hard thing to do, but it helps. And it helps in a big way. And the nice thing is you only write a book once. Maybe after a couple more years, you may want to write another version of it. Or you might want to write a second book on some other topic. But this is not a book that's intended to sell. All it's intended to do is just for somebody, when they look at it and they touch it and they feel it, because if you're dealing with a local market, let's face it, you're going to be face to face with people. So if they have something they can touch and feel, well, holy shit, they got a printed author, published author in my own local community. It's an instant in. Whether you're dealing with a niche market and you're writing a book, internet marketing for dentists, how many books are out there for internet marketing for dentists? Well, guess what? It's probably less than 10, which is kind of like a Google SERP, right? You just got to get in front of them. Offline, we've talked about some of the online methods to attract an audience, and you can offer up an opt-in even for a book. I mean, if you're targeting chiropractors, this is what I do. I'm targeting chiropractors, so you can compete against me. Targeting schools and then offering an opt-in for a book. But somebody asked me, do I get rid of the uhs and the ums and the ha's and the research that's out there? It's split like 50-50 in today's day and age. Essentially, saying ums and ahs is arguably gives credibility. So you're segmenting your list and you're looking at it, and you've got, you can purchase lists, you can scrape lists, you can put a list together off of Google search. You can segment that list based off of, geographical region. So if you're dealing with dentists and you've established yourself in a certain geographical market, you can break those regions into zones, essentially. And knowing that the average service area is about a 5-mile radius, you can almost create zones based off of the service area for that industry. You can get those numbers relatively easy by understanding that industry and targeting them through whether it be direct cold calls, which are going to give you your best results, but people hate it. Getting out in your car and walking in with your book and your business card, and you just say, Dr. So-and-so, I just wanted to drop this off to you and shake your hand. You don't really want to leave it with anybody else, and it's all you want to do. And then you say, hey, I got some things just that I could send through email to you that I think you would really enjoy. Can I get your email address? Boom. Now you've got a verbal opt-in. You've built a physical relationship with somebody. You do that 10 times to 10 individuals, you're going to end up with 3 or 4 meetings and 1 close. It's that simple. There's no harm or fear that should be brought on. You should be proud and excited to walk in to a dentist with your book and say, man, I did some research on you and this is what I do, and I just thought you wanted to read this. I mean, that flips the coin of cold calling. People think, I want to sell you this, I want to. Look, everybody knows that you're trying to sell, but when you're different, you're offering something up. It's very, very different. You know what? This is an honest, true story. I told my premium group, I said, I got 25 packages that I've been holding on to for one zone that I wanted to send out, and I wanted to send it out in conjunction with them. And there was a lead that I got, Dr. Wade Miller from Hope Chiropractic out of Lake Zurich in Illinois. And he calls me up and he leaves me this voicemail and he says, man, I got your book and I thought it was pretty cool. And he left me this long voice message about, I got my chiropractic firm, but we're also doing this other thing. And so I ended up having a conversation with him, and we spoke for an hour. And one of the first things he says to me, he says, Scott, he says, I really liked the way that you marketed yourself to me. I have been on your email list for some time and seen your stuff, and I just got your book in and the way you had it out, and I watched your DVD. And if I got any premium members that are listening to this right now, we had those discussions about DVD conversations. This guy actually watched it. I popped it in and watched it, and we laughed about that because the DVD, it's like, wow, that video is used for other channels. I don't think a lot of people take the DVD and pop it in their computer. I probably made a joke saying I don't think anybody does, but obviously I was wrong. But the point of the story is that this doctor really liked the fact that it took a little bit of effort for me to build that relationship. But the fact is the relationship is built, and he sees us as very different than anybody else that he may have dealt with. Story goes on. It tells me that he's got 7 kids, and 3 of them are becoming chiropractors and getting involved in the business, and he's got to do a lot of different things. And they developed this program and franchising and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, it's all cool and stuff, Doc, but I'm not your man for that. But we had, we talked about that for about 30 minutes. I asked him a lot of questions about his business, and he made reference like, you're really asking the right questions and whatnot. And I wish the conversation was recorded because it really was interesting. But I digress. What was the point of that story? I think I was just using that story to support the direct mail strategy of having a bulky package. I've been trying to talk about and get to segmentation and looking at that. When you're taking your list that you've put together, and I group my list into A, B's, and C's. Go A, B, C, and D, or even A and B. But just a real little quick look at it. And there's just a few different things that I look at. Really what you're trying to get to is find somebody that, 1, has got money to give you, and 2, you're confident you can get them a return on investment. And if you can answer yes to both of those questions, then they're a prospect. And I know dealing with doctors of chiropractic care, if they're over the age of 50, they're a lot harder to close and they take a lot more effort. They're not as interested in selling as growing their practice. One way to get in with some of the older folk, though, so if I'm creating and I'm finding my chiropractic audience and I'm finding them that are over the age of 50, the conversion is lower, but one way to get in for them is to sell them on the notion that today their practice is built off of relationships. But if they want to increase the value of their practice, in other words, i.e. an exit strategy, if they want to get out of their practice and sell it, to increase the value of that, they've got to have the systems in place that if you remove the doctor out of the business still runs. And that's really tough to do for a chiropractic practice. When you've got a doctor in there, dentists are the same way, right? So when that dentist retires, what happens? What's the value of it? Well, if they've got the systems in place to generate leads, in other words, the practice itself has a brand around it other than the doctor, and you've got the lead generation systems in place, and the value significantly increases. And so that, search engine marketing vastly supports that. And so maybe I'm going to segment and have my own audience list one time that is just going to be dentists or doctors that are above the age of 50. And so if I'm going to create a marketing message to them, I may want to talk about their exit strategy. Now, a student that is just graduating school is have zero interest in learning about an exit strategy for search engine marketing. You follow me with that? So if I'm going to do a direct mail campaign, I'm not interested in sending mailers or taking my effort to go and drive to a doctor that is over the age of 50. And I could usually find that information out by doing a couple of social profile searches. So you can see, starting to spend a little bit of time on each individual prospect to give them an A, B, or C rating has a lot of value to it. You could look at their website. When was the last time they updated it? Was it 1995? Was it 2012? What about responsiveness? Is it a mobile-based website? Does it have a responsive design? If it does, it's probably 2 years old or newer. If it doesn't have a responsive design, you've got an opportunity to get in. So learn your industry, learn what your industry or your target buyer is going to go through, what process they're going to go through in terms of buying that service. And in turn, start to look for those ideal prospects and give them those ratings. And what I will do is I will mail to, my D's actually are like delete, get rid of them. So I have a list of A, B, and C's. And my A's absolutely get mailed and identify the A's in each zone, and they get mailed immediately with that zone. If no leads are generated initially, then the A's get mailed number 2, and the B's get mailed number 1. The A's are a great opportunity to stop into as well if you're local, just to drop off that material. Sometimes one client I got, which was actually, it was interesting because it was my first client that was closer than 50 miles. That was only a few years ago. And not even a few years, it was like a couple years ago. Because I was dealing with the courier industry, right, on a national basis. And so I had clients all across the country. But this guy here, I could have walked to from my office. And he had been on my email list. He had got my direct mail package. And I walked in one day and just started to talk to him, gave him the book. And he's like, "Oh my God, you're Scott Gallagher." And wow, I'm blah, 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 blah. And he ended up being a customer, like a week later. So you got to wonder what happens in situations like that had you not just popped in to say hello. All right, well, I think I am going to end this call because I can talk. I can continue to talk, and there's so much to be said with that. It's really thinking smart to get out to your audience that good marketers are going to thrive with. And I can't emphasize that enough.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week. So if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.